The observation deck of the Celestial Harmony hummed with the quiet, the efficiency of 100 different species going about their business. Jasmine stood near the viewport, her crystalline blue skin shimmering under the artificial lighting, her graceful arms folded in what humans might interpret as contemplation. She was Calrosian, a species known for their mathematical prowess and their complete inability to understand human emotional expressions. Kevin had been watching her for the better part of 3 cycles now. It wasn't subtle. Even by human standards, his staring was obvious. Other crew members had noticed, whispering among themselves in a dozen different languages and communication methods. The Thoraxians clicked their mandibles in what passed for amusement. The veiled ones pulsed their bioluminescent patterns in patterns that roughly translated to young fool. Jasmine finally turned, her 3 eyes focusing on Kevin with the precision of a targeting computer. "Why are you always looking at me, human?" The observation deck fell silent. Even the ever-present hum of the ship's engines seemed too quiet, as if the universe itself held its breath. Kevin blinked, caught off guard despite having rehearsed this moment in his head countless times. His heart hammered in his chest, that peculiar human organ that seemed to malfunction at the most inconvenient times. Around them, various species leaned closer, their curiosity piqued. Humans were still relatively new to the galactic community, and their behaviors remained a source of endless fascination and confusion. "Because you look amazing," Kevin said simply. The silence deepened. Several translators malfunctioned, unable to process the statement. Amazing. The word had multiple meanings across human languages, none of which seemed to fit the context. The Thoraxian diplomat actually stopped mid, its compound eyes swiveling back to observe. Jasmine's skin flickered through several shades of blue: confusion, curiosity, and something the Calrissian emotional spectrum didn't quite have a name for. "Amazing," she repeated, testing the word. "You find my appearance to conform to optimal aesthetic parameters?" "No," Kevin said, taking a step closer. "Well, yes, but that's not what I mean." A veiled one nearby pulsed in exasperation. Humans, it seemed to say, could never communicate clearly. "Then clarify," Jasmine demanded, her primary arms unfolding while her secondary arms remained crossed, a Calrissian gesture of genuine interest mixed with defensive uncertainty. Kevin ran a hand through his hair, a nervous habit that made several observers flinch. Humans and their constant need to touch their own head fur remained unsettling to many species. "You're brilliant," he began. "I've watched you solve navigation problems in your head that take our computers minutes to calculate. You're patient. You spent 4 hours teaching the Grenix hatchlings about orbital mechanics, even though they kept eating your datapads." Jasmine's skin shifted to a deeper blue. "These are functional observations. You laugh," Kevin continued, his voice growing more confident. "Not often, but when you do, it sounds like wind chimes in a crystal forest. I don't even know if that makes sense to you, but that's what it sounds like to me. And yesterday, when that solar flare nearly fried the starboard sensors, you stayed at your post for 18 hours straight to make sure everyone made it through safely. You didn't have to do that. It wasn't your shift, but you did it anyway." The observation deck had become a gallery of frozen alien statues. The concept of aesthetic appreciation was universal enough. Every species had some form of it, but this human was describing something else entirely. Something that most species handled through logical mate selection protocols and genetic compatibility assessments. "You notice things about me," Jasmine said slowly, "that had no bearing on my functional capabilities or reproductive viability." "I notice everything about you," Kevin admitted. "The way your third eye closes when you're concentrating really hard. How you hum in subsonic frequencies when your content eye can't hear it. But I asked the Thoraxians what that vibration was. The fact that you organize your data crystals by color rather than by content because you think it looks nicer, even though you'd never admit that aesthetics matter to you." Jasmine's forearms trembled slightly. In Calrissian physiology, it was the equivalent of a human's breath catching. "This is inefficient." "Completely," Kevin agreed with a smile that Jasmine had learned to recognize as genuine warmth rather than a threat display. "It serves no logical purpose. None whatsoever. It is a waste of neural processing power to catalog such irrelevant details. Probably the biggest waste in human history," Kevin said, his smile widening. Jasmine was quiet for a long moment, her skin cycling through colors that the Calrissian emotional spectrum had rarely encountered. Around them, The other species began to slowly return to their activities, though more than a few kept sensory organs trained on the unfolding scene. "I have observed things about you as well," Jasmine finally said, her voice quieter than before. "Your species has a peculiar habit of drinking a beverage called coffee at temperatures that would be considered hazardous by most standards. You drink it at precisely 68.3 degrees Celsius, exactly 2.7 degrees cooler than the station serves it. You wait exactly 43 seconds after receiving it." Kevin's eyes widened. "You also hum human musical compositions when you believe no one is listening," Jasmine continued, her secondary arms unfolding to match her primary one's full openness, complete trust. "Specifically, old Earth songs from the 21st century. You have a preference for what humans called classic rock, though you sometimes listen to jazz when you're feeling what you call contemplative." "You've been watching me too," Kevin breathed. "It is inefficient," Jasmine admitted, her skin settling into a soft, warm blue that Kevin had never seen before. "But I find I do not wish to stop." A thoraxian nearby clicked in what Kevin had learned was approval. A veiled one pulsed in a pattern that roughly translated to "finally." Even the Greenwich hatchlings, who understood nothing of what had transpired, chirped excitedly at the emotional energy in the room. "So what happens now?" Kevin asked. Jasmine tilted her head in the gesture she'd learned from observing humans. "A question, an invitation, a beginning. I believe," she said carefully, "that we continue this inefficient observation of one another, and perhaps we do so together." Kevin's answering smile could have powered a small star dot in the vast coldness of space. Aboard a ship filled with 1,000 different species, two beings found something that transcended logic, function, and reproductive protocols. They found what humans had always excelled at, what made them simultaneously baffling and beloved among the galactic community: the ability to see worth, not in efficiency or utility, but in the simple, profound act of truly seeing another person. And in that moment, the observation deck of the Celestial Harmony lived up to its name.